When I started preparing for this sermon, there was a lot of really important words in this section, right? There's words like the cup. What is the cup that he is about to drink? And then there's this baptism, which is unique in Mark. And when Matthew and Luke tell this story, they just say, are you willing to drink the cup that I have to drink? But they don't mention his baptism. So it's interesting that Mark adds that. There's also this sense of service. And then there's this issue of ransom. There's so many different interesting pieces in here. I thought, God, how am I possibly going to preach a sermon about all of these things? And then I realized that I really think this is all about one thing. That I really think that the reason that Jesus has kept his identity a secret for so long in Mark's gospel is that there was just one thing that the disciples and his followers were continuing to miss every time he laid hands, every time he cast out demons, every time he healed and fed people. They just weren't quite there yet. I think Jesus has been saying all along, no matter what it looks like in the world, you are significant to God. And when he told Peter, hey man, this is about to happen to me, Peter, what? Freaked out on it, right? Peter took him aside, and it says in the scripture that he rebuked Jesus. Now that word is used when Jesus casts demons out of people. So you can imagine it's got a little fire to it, right? It's got a little heat, it's got a little energy. Now at least he pulls him aside, right? At least Peter's like, hold on guys, I gotta talk to the man real quick. No. But Jesus doesn't even look at him, right? He turns away from him back to the disciples and rebukes Peter. Get behind me, Satan, for you are focused on things of humans and not things of God. Now, on the one hand, you can read this as saying, Peter sees Jesus as significant. And this is not what happens to significant people. Significant people, messiahs, saviors of the world, do not get publicly executed in a humiliating way. They do not get flogged and spit upon and beaten and crucified and left to die. That is not what happens to significant people. They win. They are gold medal winners. Also, though, I think underneath of it, Peter's like, if that happens to you, I might not be significant. Because I'm the beloved disciple, at least he thinks that. Now, John's gospel says it different. But I think he's competing with James and John for the beloved disciple, status, right? Happens to be 3 of them, gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal, but regardless, right? I think there's a fear in Peter that, like, if you're not significant and I'm your follower, then I won't be significant either. So I need you to win so that I can be on the winning team. But all the time, every time, Jesus has been telling them all throughout, no matter what it looks like, you are significant to God. But man, we want that position, don't we? We want that status, and here comes James and John. Now in Mark's gospel, it says they did it of their own accord. In the other gospels, it says their mom put them up to it. I think it's funny how they put it on the mom. Got to pin it on a woman somehow. Anyway, I'm digressing, I apologize. But they roll up on Jesus and they want a position. Now, my personal opinion is that they understood that he's about to die, and they're like, well, if he's going to die, we're probably going to die too, so we at least want good seats on the other side. Or can we roll in on the chariots on either side of you when you bring the fire? Like, we'll die as long as we also get to bring the fire. Remember, their nickname was Sons of Thunder, right? So they're ready to bring the thunder. right? And I think that might be what they're asking here, is can we get the positions? Can we get the good location? Now, what's interesting here is if you get into the Greek, there's something interesting about their question. Now, it's not easy to read in the English because you see that the question that they ask, that Jesus asked them, is the same question that Jesus asked Bartimaeus. And both Bartimaeus and James and John refer to Jesus as teacher, but in the Greek, it's not the same word. In the Greek, the word that James and John use is a word that means like expert or master of the craft. The word that Bartimaeus uses means, it's literally rabboni, which means exalted rabbi, spiritual teacher, exalted spiritual teacher. But they're approaching him like a master or an expert. And they say, hey, master, hey, expert, we need you to promise to do something for us, whatever we ask. And Jesus' response, it's interesting in the Greek, Jesus' response has an emphasis on it that's different than his question to Bartimaeus, even though it's the same words. Jesus' response to them has an emphasis on the end. It says, well, what do you guys want me to do for you? For you, what do you want done by me? Because they want something for them. And then when they ask it, they're basically saying, we want to be significant. We want to matter. We want this whole journey we've been on with you to matter. And of course, he asks, can you handle what you're asking for? And they're like, oh yeah, we got it. And he's like, well, that's true. You are going to go through some stuff, right? Like you're going to be murdered, both of you, in horribly unspeakable ways. It's documented later. But you know what? I can't give you significance in the eyes of other people. Now, some of the elites and the rulers of the world, they can, right? They can give out significance. They can make you vice president. But I can't give you significance in the eyes of other people. That's not what I do. That's not how this works. But I can remind you that you are significant to God. Now, the reason that I paired this story with the story of Bartimaeus is that Bartimaeus has a different approach to Jesus and a different response. Just as an aside, I'll tell you, this is the place where Jesus gets a messianic identity put on him and he doesn't reject it. It's the first time, Son of David, right? Son of David, have mercy on me. That's a messianic identity. That's saying, I see you as the one who is to come. I see you as the one who's going to save us. But I want to back up just a second. It's funny that it says Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, because Bartimaeus in Hebrew literally means son of Timaeus. Timaeus. Bar means son of. And so it's funny that they use the Greek here to tell you son of Timaeus, Bartimaeus. The son of is actually in Greek, but the name is in Hebrew. So it tells you who the audience is, right? That they might not realize that. They might think Bartimaeus is his name. But it's like Johnson, right? But what's interesting here is the meaning of the name Timaeus. Timaeus is rooted in the word Time, which means of honor. So Bartimaeus means son of someone honorable, son of someone significant. And the text gives you that first before probably what he would have been known as, which is just blind beggar. Someone who is otherwise insignificant. So here he is, this person whose identities are either someone insignificant or the son of someone who is significant, which can cut either way. Some people who are kids of significant people get a lot of access to resources and power, status. They get to feel significant by proxy. But then there's a lot of people who feel worthless because they stand in the shadow of someone who is significant, someone who made an impact, someone who gave gift, and they see themselves as never being able to measure up. But whatever mindset Bartimaeus was in, here he is calling out to Jesus. And when Jesus welcomes him over, Jesus asks him the same question that he asked James and John, but the emphasis is different. Instead of emphasizing for you, it emphasizes the me. What do you want me to do for you? Recognizing, of course, that Bartimaeus sees something significant, maybe even sees the me of Jesus, that the disciples maybe hadn't been able to see, and refers to him Rabboni, which only occurs one other time in the entire New Testament. And it's the declaration that Mary makes when she recognizes Jesus after she sees him outside of the tomb at the end of John's Gospel in chapter 20. It's the only other time that term is used in the entire New Testament. This recognition of this Christ. What do you want me to do for you? He says, Rabboni, make me see again. Now, why does he want to see again? We could think of 100 reasons, but we know why he wants to see again by what happens afterwards. Because Jesus does heal him. He says, go, your faith has made you well. Here you are, someone that can now see, someone that's restored in this culture that would have given you very little dignity and worth and value. Now you have this opportunity to move through the world with dignity and worth and value. You have to remember that at that time, like cataract surgery, right? Think about how many people would have been blind. A lot. You're healed. Go, your faith has made you well. What does he do?
Follows him.
He turns and follows him on the way. He asks for the thing that's going to give him the ability to follow Jesus. You see, Jesus has been saying all the time, every day, in every way that he could, you are significant to God. You are significant to God. You matter to the Lord Almighty, creator of the universe. You are significant to God. And every time he touched and healed and fed and blessed, that was what he was saying. That was the message. But we struggle with feeling insignificant, don't we? All that means is that we are human. We live in the world, and the world doles out significance, and the world is stingy with significance. The world withholds significance, dangles it like a carrot in front of us, gives us games to play, things to measure up to, status that is elusive or temporary. The question is not whether or not we will feel insignificant. It's a fact. We're going to feel insignificant. We're going to run up against standards that we can't possibly meet. The question is, how are we going to respond to our experiences when we feel insignificant? When we feel like we don't matter, our contribution isn't enough? I've had this conversation this week with 5 different people about looking at the political environment that we're in and saying there is absolutely nothing I personally can do to impact the reality of America today. It seems to be spiraling out of control, and I feel like I am insignificant in the face of name one of 500 things. How then will we respond? How then shall we live when we encounter those feelings, when we run up against those things that make us feel so insignificant? That's really the test of our faith, is will we remember the thing that Jesus has always said, the thing that Jesus continues to say to us today, which is, you are significant to God. What does Bartimaeus matter in the history of the world? Well, he matters because he matters to God. And who knows who else learned about the healing power of Jesus through Bartimaeus' witness. We never hear from him again. In fact, in the other Gospels, he's not even significant enough to stand alone. There's another blind man with him in Luke and Matthew, but Mark singles him out in particular to say, you know, this person who's the son of someone important, he's actually important. So I think the question that I wrestle with here is remembering I don't need blank, whatever that is, to be significant. I don't need status. I don't need honor. I don't need people telling me. I don't need to be seen for my work to be significant. But I do need this to follow Jesus. Because I can believe, I can trust that Jesus knows that I am significant, but what do I need to follow him? And how do I know that I am significant, that I have gift to give in this moment so that I can show up to the next person and the next person and witness to them that they are significant to God? This is the gospel. This is the good news of Jesus Christ, that you are significant to the Lord.